Europe has now become the epicenter of the pandemic.
Hello guys, welcome back to Edition IBS. The World Health Organization's Director General said that coronavirus is a pandemic and the whole world should take aggressive measures to save lives. We also made a video on how the coronavirus started to spread around the world, quantifying along with a respective data visualization. I would recommend you to go to that previous video before you watch this video. The video link is in the description. Alright then. Let's get into the video. In today's video, we're gonna talk about 10 instances where world leaders and politicians refused to shake hands with each other due to amid coronavirus. Instead of handshake, some of them said no to one another, some of them recommended to adopt traditional Indian-style Namaste or the traditional Sri Lankan-style AYUBOWAN. And also, some used elbow bump instead of handshake to greet each other. Let's watch the 10 instances where they said goodbye to handshake. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte concluded a press conference announcing a no handshake policy to prevent the spread of coronavirus. But having said that, he also shook hands with a health official. Realizing his unintentional act, the Dutch Prime Minister exclaimed, "Sorry, we can't do that anymore," and then he chose to do an elbow bump. French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte welcomed Spanish King Felipe and his wife Queen Letizia for lunch at the Élysée Palace in Paris, France. Rather than shaking hands with each other, the French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife greeted the invitees with a Namaste bow. German Chancellor Angela Merkel attempted to shake hands with the country's interior minister. And it was also turned down by the interior minister in the middle of growing fears of the coronavirus outbreak. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also suggested to Israelis to adopt Namaste instead of shaking hands to avoid spreading the coronavirus at a press conference. The Prime Minister also demonstrated how to greet each other with Namaste.
You can try to implement the Indian system of Namaste or say another word like Shalom, but find a way, any way, to avoid.
The Prince Charles was also seen to Namaste people in the Commonwealth Service, which is an interfaith gathering at London's Westminster Abbey, to avoid shaking hands amid fears of coronavirus spreading in the UK. Prince Harry also seen to use elbow dumps as he greet others. Turkey President Tayyip Erdogan, after the meeting with the European Council President Charles Michel, avoided the handshake in front of the cameras in order to protect himself from the coronavirus. Since the lack of handshakes between two men, Tayyip Erdogan said "Corona," and this sparked laughter in the European Union Council hall. At the end of a meeting between Turkish president and NATO chief at the headquarters of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the leaders decided not to shake hands due to coronavirus disease. Instead, both Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan and NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg was putting hands over their heart when they were greeting each other. President Donald Trump and visiting Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar greeted each other in the traditional Indian way of Namaste at the White House in Washington, which they said it was necessary in the current times of coronavirus. Further, Trump exclaimed, "We did not shake hands today. We looked at each other and said what we are going to do. You know, sort of a weird feeling," Trump told reporters in the Oval Office of the White House, along with Varadkar.
Well, we didn't shake hands today, and we looked at each other, we said, what are we going to do? You know, it's sort of a weird feeling. And we said at the same time, we did this. You know, I just got back from India, and I didn't shake any hands there, and it was very easy because they go like this, and Japan goes.
The American Vice President, Mike Pence, also gave elbow bumps to other top state officials in Washington after arriving to discuss the state's efforts to combat the fast-spreading coronavirus. He was greeted by Inslee, the Democratic governor. Instead of shaking his hand, Inslee put out his elbow, and then the vice president reciprocated and gave Inslee an elbow bump. Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis and Managing Director of the European Stability Mechanism, Klaus, also gave each other bump fists instead of a handshake, in what the Prime Minister of Greece said it was a message for precaution against a coronavirus spread in the Maximos mansion in Athens, Greece.